Now, early stage commercialization fund manager Uniseed has received a $75 million investment by UniSuper to progress funding for both existing and new projects, particularly in the fields of biotech, pharma, and green energy. To take us through this investment and what it will achieve, we're joined by Chief Executive Peter Devine. Peter, thank you for joining us. Look, for those of you people that might not know what Uniseed is, just give us a quick 60-second pitch.
Sure. Uniseed is a partnership between 5 of Australia's top research organisations that make up about 40% of all the research expenditure in Australia, and they are the Universities of Queensland, New South Wales, Sydney, Melbourne, and the CSIRO. And the whole idea of Uniseed is to really help facilitate commercialisation of those organisations and, if you like, help move technologies out into the real world, if you like.
So you've just got this investment in backing. Tell us, what will the funds be used for? Is it, what sort of sectors are we looking at, particularly, I guess, going forward in this year when we do have those increased conversations about, green and renewable energy and, of course, pharmaceuticals?
Yeah, look, they are definitely sectors we'll be looking at, and I think the primary motivation of UniSuper committing $75 million is really to, they saw Uniseed as an opportunity to get exposure to, if you like, the ESG framework, environment, society, governance, and a lot of clean technologies. And I think academics or researchers are working on the big problems. They're trying to solve the problems, and because of Uniseed's relationships, we're seeing all of these new discoveries that are coming out of these organisations. So certainly about a third of what we see, or invest in is biotech drugs, and we have a number of companies in our portfolio that are in the clinic at the moment in either phase 1 or phase 2 clinical trials. And historically, we've taken products all the way to the market with a company called Hastie. And then, I guess I'd put a lot in what I'd call other biotech, which could be agricultural or potentially medical devices. And then the rest, another third, is what I call other technologies, which is really what captures a lot of this green technologies. And one of our investments at the moment, LM Plus, is a carbon capture and use technology as an example, which is a low-cost method of capturing carbon, but it produces a usable product. And there's a whole lot of others in that space, be it whether it's in solar industry, or whether it, robotics or potentially quantum computing. We're seeing all kinds of technologies, which I think it's great that UniSuper are looking to support.
So Peter, typically for Uniseed, where do you join into a project, and I guess where do you take off? Where do you let them fly? And what's the process behind that?
Yeah, look, I think where we start is where the first investor, and that's kind of really what you'd call seed investment. And we take we form a company, and we take the technology, if you like, out of the uni into a company. But it's important to say that we invest all the way through the life cycle of that company, and we want to be there right to the end, right to the exit. And we have been successful in doing that, with a number of deals. Our most recent one of our companies, Ortra, was a power asset monitoring technology, and it was sold to Schneider Electric just earlier this year. But we've had some big successes in the biotech space. Spinifex was sold to Novartis, and Fibratech was sold to Shire, and more recently one of our companies, Exonate, did a big strategic collaborative deal with Johnson & Johnson. So we've had a history of success in taking these things out, but I think it's key that we're always the first investor, and I think that's the hard place to raise money. And in a way, Uniseed was set up, what we say is to bridge that valley of death, or what we like to say is that first round of investment makes the opportunity investable for other investors. So we take it out, but then we look to bring in other money. and UniSuper will be on that journey with us. And as they invest at each round going through the life cycle, their exposure will increase because the companies need more and more money. So over the life of a company, they bias their investment towards the later stage rounds, but they've got in early, and that gives them that opportunity to participate in the follow-on rounds.
Certainly the initial investment is the hardest, but also gets them in front of more eyes, doesn't it, Peter? So you are fulfilling that very early, very difficult stage. Now, being at the front, being at the forefront of the sort of developments, what do you think are some of the tech trends that we're going to see across 2022? Is there anything that might guide us towards where some of the big innovations are going to come from this year?
I think you touched on it before. We're seeing a lot more in terms of AI, and then the use of that enabling different hardware. But we're certain, and robotics is also feeding into that. On top of that, obviously, I mentioned quantum computing. That we're seeing some really exciting new technology in that area, and obviously in the clean tech space, be it a lot of recycling type technologies, a lot of, if you like, new technologies, better plastics, for example. So I think that, as I said before, I think it's interesting over the last 10 years. Probably 10 years ago, it was much more biotech. We're still seeing a lot of biotech, but there's a lot more researchers now working on solving a lot of the, I guess I'd call it, environmental or climate-related problems, and so I think that's where we'll see some really fantastic developments, including things like energy and alternate energy sources.
Well, Peter, thank you so much for running us through it, and we certainly hope to speak to some of those startups that you are helping progress in their journey. But thank you for joining us today.
Thanks very much.